Good evening, everyone. This is the April 2nd meeting of the Revere City Council. Would everyone please rise to salute the flag?
Roll call of the members. Councilor Guanasso.
Here.
Here. Councilor Keefe.
Here.
Here. Councilor McKenna.
Here.
Here. Councilor Morabito.
Here.
Here. Councilor Novoselsky.
Here.
Here. Councilor Patch.
Here.
Here. Councilor Powers.
Here.
Here. Councilor Rizzo.
Here.
Here. Councilor Rotundo. Is he? He's absent for the moment. Councilor Zambuto.
Here.
Here. And Council President Janino. Here. Quorum is present. Approval of the journal of the regular meeting of March 26, 2018. Calendar item number 3, joint meeting of Comcast, National Grid, and Verizon to discuss double poles and utility work.
Madam President,
Councilor?
before we move on to calendar item number 3, could we suspend rules? I believe a couple of moments of silence are in order.
Absolutely, Councilor. Suspension of rules. All in favor, all opposed? So ordered. Councilor?
Well, thank you very much, Madam President. We, unfortunately, in the last couple of days, we lost a tremendous Revere resident, a good friend to the city, and an incredible businessman. He left his footprint and fingerprint on the city in many, many ways, and that is Joe Festa Sr. Joe was not only a great businessman, not only a great mentor, he was a neighbor, a good friend, and as I say, he raised a tremendous family. Most of his family, in fact, are still here in the city of Revere, and he will absolutely be missed. So I would like to ask, Madam President, if we could honor his memory with a moment of silence. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor. And while everyone is here and we're under this moment of silence, we did lose another member of our community over the past week. The Revere Fire Department had another loss of retired firefighter Roger Sasha. If we could also have that moment of silence as well. Thank you. Back to regular order of business.
Madam President?
Councilor?
If I may, before we get into the double polls, and if it's okay with the representatives here from the various utilities, we have a representative of our business community that's here tonight that would like to address the council. It does involve either one or more of the utility companies that are here today, and I think she just wants to be able to make an inquiry and to also make a point as to how the business community should and ought to be treated going forward. And if we can, I would like to ask Kerry Abrams to approach the podium if we could.
Absolutely.
Madam President, as well, I would like to speak a little bit on this issue as well thereafter. I'm a little upset.
We'll open it up to the business community and our residents and then to the council.
Good evening, Madam President, and good evening, councilors. Thank you for taking the time to allow me to speak on this issue. I arrived to work last Wednesday, and I pulled up to a series of 6 signs on utility poles that said no parking Monday through Friday, 7:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. I am at 245 Revere Street and own the business Kinship Floral. On my street, there are several businesses with me. It was my understanding after several inquiries and a little bit of exasperation given the fact that we were celebrating Easter holiday and we sell flowers. It was turned out that it was the utility work that was coming into play for the following week. It wasn't currently happening on our street, but it would be TBD over the next week or so. Those signs were taken down, and why I appreciate that, My point why I'm here today is that we take the consideration in planning for all of our business community when posting temporary signs with regard to utility work. These signs were made of metal. These signs were affixed to a pole with a metal bracket. I would ask that when we're thinking about what we're doing in a business district, that we use temporary signs, signs that have dates, temporary times, and that we take in consideration the impact that it has on the business community and the loss of business that could be impacted. New Deal was one of them. That also happened last week. Sabella's, a dentist, a funeral home. It hit us all. So I think we think a little bit how we route our utility work with regard to business districts, and then we think about how we schedule our parking. And that's it. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Ms. Abrams.
Thank you
That's
so
a
much.
great point. Any counselors wishing to speak on this before we open it up to the utility company?
Yes,
Counselor?
I seen the actual signs, communicated with Captain Guido and several other people, and they were from your company. They were your possession, they were your product. I want to know why and how and who gave the authority to put them up. Because to put up a sign of that nature, that was affixed, that is not temporary, circumvents our laws. And I want to know who gave the authority to your workers to do that. It takes a lot of balls, to be quite honest with you.
Madam President, before they can respond, if I could just, I guess I'll call it a point of information. I'm sure Council Rotundo already knows this. I can appreciate, his anger about how many of our local businesses were treated, but I have to believe that the representatives that are here probably did not personally go and put those signs up yourselves. You're
I think Stan did.
handling.
I think Stan did.
I think the point here going forward that both Council Rotundo, myself, and the rest of the members of the council are just looking for is that the message gets back like, we don't need these permanent signs up there. When we have temporary work going on, as you know, you put a little paper sign up, you affix it, there'll be no parking here between these days and these times because of work being done. I think what's happened is these metal signs that look so permanent, and they really did look permanent, for those of us that were able to see them, gave everybody this feeling of my customers can't park here, and anything that happens here in any, not just in Revere, in any city, anything permanent like that would obviously have to go through the traffic commission. So with the abutters not being notified and just finding these signs there, they were obviously upset, and so naturally that created a whole nother set of circumstances where we're getting phone calls and people are getting unnecessarily troubled. But I just want to point out, Madam President, that I don't believe that any of these representatives here, really probably, and I don't mean to answer for you because you may have known, and I'll swallow these words back, but they may not have even known that those signs actually were put up the way they were. So that being said, Councilor Rotundo would like to hear from the...
Madam President?
Counselor Ganasso?
Madam President, I got a call also because that's the area I represent, and I was down there within a couple of hours to view myself the signs. Number one, I noted a couple of things. Number one, they were completely different that we display within the community. And the other thing is they were like 4 feet up on the pole, which is another thing that we don't do as a practice within the community. So I did work immediately. I got on the phone immediately with the mayor, asked for his cooperation. He provided that, and I reached out to the various departments to see what this is all about. Most people did not have an answer as to why these signs were there, but I just do want you to know that they got a rapid response, and so I'm very pleased with however they were taken down, and in the orderly fashion they were taken down. It didn't take very long for this to take place, and I'm happy to say that's the way it occurred. But to this moment, I don't know how they got there, don't really care how they got there. We just have to come up with a game plan, as Kerry has stated, that be a little courteous to not only the business community, but our residents, because we on Revere Street are getting wiped out. I mean, you have to detour traffic every day. It's every day what public utility poles work. And it's now, we fight with the gentleman here to try to help us remove double poles. Now Revere Street's all loaded with double poles again. So I got my hands full again. I got to start right from scratch. And This is like batting my head against the wall. We're not working as a team. And there's so many tenants on each pole that's going to take forever to get these things off of there. So what do we do as residents? We have to live with these double poles? This wasn't done for our benefit. It was done to enhance their business. It was done for other people down the end of Ward 5. And I graciously accepted that challenge when it happened, and I said it wasn't going to benefit Ward 3. But I never in my wildest dreams would think that we would be this inconvenienced by so much misdirection of traffic. It's just awful. And it's got to at some point stop, because the residents are becoming very frustrated. And we're looking, as we have the gentlemen up and ladies today, we have them before us this evening. They're not the source, but at least they can bring it to the source immediately as to how unhappy we are in the city with the performance, the way it's being done. It's just taking forever to do. And we got to stop that and stop inconveniencing our neighbors and our business community. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor. Before we bring the utility companies up, do any counselors have any polls or any other issues we want to go through? I think it'd be most efficient if we go through the council for any issues and then invite them up to speak in total. So we'll start at this end and work our way down.
Thank you, Madam President.
Excuse me. Excuse me.
I thought you just talked.
Well, I didn't talk about polls. Madam President, Rumney Road is becoming a real problem with double poles. And it's my understanding under the capital improvement program that Rumney Road is going to be completed on the pavement and the sidewalks from Rumney Road from Broadway to Graves Road. That's immediately in the works. So I would like for the utilities to get that work done prior to us improving these roads and the sidewalks. And number two, Cushman Ave again is starting to get to be a problem. At 123 Cushman Ave, there's a pole number VZ939 that there's been a light out, and it's been out for a long time. I think it's a fixture problem. So what we need to do is get some sort of a new fixture at that location. The homeowners have been patiently waiting for this to happen. Again, it's pole number VZ939, located right in front of 123 Cushman Ave. Thank you, Madam President.
Councilor Keefe.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to see if there was some form of an update. I know that we've had some good communications in regards to the pole issue up in the Reservoir Ave, paper lot 165 to 180 area. There was, and I sent some photos to the joint utilities. So just curious if you can give us an update on that. But outside of that, just going back to the business district piece, like Councilor Rizzo said, I don't think that, you were up there hammering poles in on Thursday night, but it's more just, the work has to be done. We get that. It's more of the upfront communications so that the business can plan. I'm sure if you spoke to the businesses on Revere Street, especially a florist or on Easter, they would have probably said, hey, if you started at Monday, that'd be great. Why don't we do that between the end of Easter and the beginning of Mother's Day would probably be best for a business like that.
Thank you. Counselor?
Thank you, Madam President. I have a bunch of polls in Ward 1 they're not working. Dan, I'd just like to say that when I first started, and no disrespect to you, but when I first started the council, I would call you all the time and text you and give you my problems, and you would fix them. And for the last, 8 months now, I've called you and texted you, and I don't get any answers back. So I don't know who to call. If there's someone that I can call for these problems, I would really like that number. I'll tell you, poll number 58, 59, 60, 63, and 77 on Winthrop Ave are not working. On Revere Beach Parkway, the whole parkway from the skating rink, 4943, 4953, 4959, 4961, 4981, and I could have missed a couple, but I couldn't stop. But from the skating rink to the storage unit, none of the lights are working. It's very, very dark. Double poles. I've asked for this for 2 years now. Pole number 76 on Winthrop Ave on the sidewalk has cement around it. It's dangerous. It's on a crosswalk. It's on the corner of a crosswalk. It still has the cement. It hasn't been removed. Pole number 77, it's a new double pole that we just got. I don't know why. 72 is a double pole, and 75 is a double pole. There is a wire I called about a year ago, a wire down behind 16 Pratt Street. The pole number is 2B, and it stretches to 48/2. It is a wire down. It is on a shed. It has broken the top of the shed, and it's still down. And I called about a year ago, and National Grid said it was a Comcast problem, but I don't think so. So that needs to be fixed. It needs to be addressed for the people that live there. And just, I would like to say that I don't know who's doing the utility work for the pavements, the streets, but Hall Street, you did a stretch of that, it's sinking. Pearview Ave, you did a stretch of that, I don't know if you put all new wires in there, if it could have been the, I don't know who did the work, but it's sinking. So I think the utility work that the National Grid or whoever's doing, what's happening is it's not complying to the pavement that's on the street, so, and it's sinking. So I think we need to look at that too as a problem. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Morbido, I'm just going to go right down the line.
Do you guys have all those polls written down? I have a quick question pertaining to the storms we had this winter. Did we have to add any double poles?
I'd have to check.
Can you get back to me? Thanks, Jen.
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Yes, Dan, I am going to beat on you tonight. I'm still looking for that roadway at the corner of Standish Road and Garfield Ave to be repaved after we had a new roadway repaved and redone. Gas came in and ripped it all up and just left trenches. So I'm still looking for that intersection to be repaved by National Grid. Second of all, I think I have to ask the chief something. Chief, on North Shore Road, there's a double pole next to the new apartment house, and there's a city wire running through it. It was put in about 3-4 years ago as part of a new communication system, and I'm not sure if our guy is supposed to move it over to the new pole or not.
What's the address, Counselor?
It's around 1540 North Shore Road, right by Jamie Russo's new building.
That is not on our list. I have 3 poles here, basically,
Right.
that we're involved with. There's a 4th one down by the Garfield School, but
Right, I know about that.
that one's not ready to
No,
be moved.
this is right on North Shore Road by 7-Eleven.
Not aware of that.
So we have to check on, I don't know if they have it on, I don't know the pole number, I'm sorry. But it's right across from 1540 North Shore Road. And there's a city wire, a black wire that runs on the old pole. And they won't, and Comcast would be next in line to do it. And I don't know whose wire it is, other than being a city wire.
I could look into that
Would
with
you
Captain
please?
Wolfgang.
Yeah.
That's not on our list. though,
Would
I
you
can tell
please?
that. Sure.
And Dan, thank you. Dan, also, I was a little upset that after waiting 5 years to have lights increased on Ocean Ave, I was told that, no, it has to go through DCR. We did put that in through them, but I was just a little upset that we had to wait 5 years to find that out. And in connection with Councilor McKenna, those poles around 205 Revere Beach Parkway, from North Shore Road down to the Rita Singer Bridge have been out. We talked about this, and we think it's underground, and I'm waiting 6 years for that. So, I know we get all kinds of excuses from your guys, even when it's nice weather. We get excuses, and I think it's time for somebody to step up and get some work done. It's not nice. People are driving along that road, and it's pitch black. I know we have headlights in our cars, but, it's dangerous. People walk there also. Put the mic on, please.
The responsibility is split. We own the wire, we own the pole, but we don't own the base, we don't own the conduit. So a number of lights on DCR parkways everywhere are being held up by the DCR. All we can do is turn it into them. They report back when it's done, and then we can go out and rewire it. So, Council, when you have a bunch that are in a row like that, we know it's conduit. The someone has either dug through it or it's collapsed. Yeah.
I think I have a bit loud voice anyways. I think those lights have been out since the tornado, and that was 2014, I believe.
Yeah.
Was that 2014? So those lights have been out because that's where the tornado hit, and they haven't been fixed.
What we can do is, obviously we have DCR roadways everywhere in our service community, but we can ask them to prioritize. They do now have a contractor that's working, and some of the budget issues have been straightened out, so they are making progress. But it's a long list of bases and conduit all over the place that needs to be repaired. And once that's done, then we can, it may even resolve the problem once we pull new wire in.
Right. Even pole, I think it's 4996, brand new pole at the new bridge on Winthrop Ave, right at the intersection of 16. Never worked from the first day that it was put in.
All right, well, that's obviously probably a bulb problem, so.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's the only light in the whole intersection itself.
But usually when there's a string of them in a row,
Right.
it's an underground,
Can understand.
either cable or
We
conduit
talked about that too,
problem.
but it's just, you wait 5-6 years for it to get fixed,
I
It's,
understand.
Who passed it on to DCR to let them know that
We
there's an
do.
issue there,
We do, yeah.
so, sure, go ahead.
That pole 77 is, it really needs to be fixed because it's in an intersection and a crosswalk, and people walk from the train station
It's the one with
up
this
the
concrete.
street. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like right on the corner of the,
Okay.
crosswalk, and that's been out for a while, so I don't want to take up any more time, but that's dangerous, and that's across the street from the cement one.
Okay.
And Dan, also again, I'm still looking for pole 48 to be pulled out. That's another 5 years just to take a pole out. I know National Grid and Verizon have been arguing whose pole it is, and
Yeah. Well, they're all ours.
someone has to make a move on it.
Well, actually, the removal now is Verizon, the installation is ours. So,
But this is, there's nothing been on it for 7 years,
okay.
and I've been complaining about it for at least 6, and I think it's disgusting. And also, one other pole on Nahant Ave by 70 Nahant Ave. I think the next in court was, National Grid did their work, but it hasn't been, on Nungeon, there hasn't been crossed off for Comcast to move in on it,
Okay.
next in line, because the city did theirs, because I requested it. Electric was gone, they were next, and, Revere Wire went in and moved theirs. And next in line is Comcast, but they won't do it because on your list, it's showing that National Grid is still next in line.
Okay.
And that work was
That's
done.
Nahant.
Nahant, is 70 Nahant Ave. I don't remember the poll number. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Patch.
Thank you, Madam President. I'll start with you, Dan, seeing you're up there. As far as are we done on Washington Avenue, in Lucia Street, and Malden Street?
In terms of gas work?
Yeah, tearing up the roads.
I believe we are, but I will confirm that.
And I would like, really, if you could look into Lucia Street, where they were using for a staging area, your subcontractor there.
Yes.
They left it a mess, their equipment, they were parking it along the fence of the highway. They tore up all the little grass or weeds that were there and left some trash, and all their equipment was leaking oil or gas or whatever. I got several complaints on the way it was left. I didn't know if they were coming back or not, so if you could give me a call on that. I also am not too happy with the hot topping of on Washington Ave, and particularly on Malden Street. If it was your guys, National Grid, it wouldn't look like that. I'm knocking the subcontractors you hire. It's not sinking yet, but they left a lid on Malden Street. Probably give it another year before it sinks. It's just, I just get frustrated because, Washington Ave looked beautiful. They just repaved it a couple of years ago, and then you come, it's got to be better communication here. All of a sudden, now you got that trench all the way, I don't know, from beyond Bruno Street to Malden Street, and down Malden Street, down Washington Ave, down to Malden Street, Lucia Street, and side streets off of Malden Street. It just leaves the place looking terrible. I mean, and some of those side streets off of Malden Street were recently repaved too. I mean, it's gotta be a way, when you get these plans, I'm sure these plans you don't do the planning and then do the work in like 2 or 3 months. I'm sure you have a longer period of time before you actually do the work. And, is there a way to look to see in what condition the street is in before you start, or?
Well, normally what we do is we have a department, it's called Public Works. They do, replace gas lines, gas mains and streets, which is what we're doing here. We do try to get together with the community to kind of compare a list of streets that are going to be repaved, so we're not doing what you just described, but if we have cut into that street within 5 years, there's certain rules as to what the restoration is supposed to be. I can talk to you about that. So, and maybe that's in the plan. Maybe what you're seeing is temporary patching, so I have to look into it. I'm not aware how old the street was, but if you say it's less than 5 years.
Oh, it was less than 5 years. And Washington Ave was. And I believe Malden Street was too.
Yeah.
If you, and take care of that Lucia Street.
Yeah,
And I don't know how you're going to fix that, but I would appreciate it if you could take care of that.
Okay.
Okay, I got one question for Stan. Stan, my man. Gee, we have mayors all night tonight. We have a mayor from Everett, an ex-mayor from Salem.
How can I help you?
Michael Road again.
Michael Road.
It's the same question I ask you every time you're up here. It was some kind of data service that was holding up the double pole, the transfer. I know I communicated with that company. You were in on the emails. They supposedly moved their wire, and last time you were here, you told me that they were still.
They're still listed, yeah.
They're still listed.
What I'll do is I'll work with Comcast and ask just to have you take a look because you would be next up, and then we'll move on.
I think it's poll number, I don't have the list in
No,
front of me, but it's poll number 2
We have the polls numbered here.
on
Let's
Michael
see.
Road.
Yep.
That's it.
Okay, it's poll number 2, right?
Number 2?
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Counselor Powers, anything?
Thank you, Madam President. Stan, with regard to that, what I called you about the other day,
Yep. The,
John Mooney Road, the shed.
right.
Was somebody able to go down there?
Someone did go down.
Yep.
And I know that it was, they had to send a pole crew back down there, so I don't know if they've captured that yet, but
Okay.
I'll check on that.
I'd appreciate that. And,
Okay. And then I'll give you a call.
yeah, Dan, you got a second? That poll number on North Shore Road is 2168. It's been out for a considerable amount of time. And that's one. I'm going to give you some more tomorrow that are on Dunn Road.
I'm sorry, Counsel, what was that poll number again?
The one on North Shore Road is 2168.
2168.
It's in the area of 940 North Shore Road. It's been out for a considerable amount of time. And then there are 3 other poles that are on the boulevard. They're the newer type, and I'm not sure. I had put in a motion, and we went down to the mayor's office. I'm not sure if that's you or DCR, from Revere Street North.
Could be the DCR. Oh,
Is it, think it's DCR?
could be, yeah. Let me- What do the polls look like?
There's the newer type, and, you know,
Are they metal?
yeah, they're metal, oh, yeah.
Are they green or are they regular metal?
I think they're regular metal, just,
No, that's probably ours.
okay. Well, anyway, let me give you a call tomorrow
Okay.
on those, and
Okay.
I have that information on my computer, and I can just get it for you.
Okay.
But the one I'm really concerned about right now is 2168.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Madam President. First off, Dan, Mayor, Angela, thank you very much for being here. It's been a very challenging winter this year, and I know Councilor Janino and I have a motion in that down the road, once we get through the winter and into the nicer weather, we would like to meet and talk about the electrical grid and how we can maybe improve services around the city. I understand that across the Commonwealth, there were people that were without power for days. I don't think we actually approached that, but we had some significant outages this year that I'm sure you all worked very, very hard to get power restored. Natural disasters happen, and you guys have typically risen to the occasion, but we want to try to have at least open up a discussion on how we can maybe make improvements to the infrastructure itself so people that typically suffer loss of power during major storms, maybe there's a way that we can upgrade that or improve that. So that's a conversation Councilor Janino and I had talked about, and I'm hopeful that you'll be able to participate in those discussions as we go forward, maybe with your engineers or something along those lines. One of the things, and Council McKenna had brought up, and she's been dutifully, monitoring streetlights in her area, and as you know, working in the city for as long as you have, they're important to people. A lot of people, there's people probably that don't want them anymore in front of their house. There's people that obviously want them. But my concern about the lights that are out, and I mean, several were identified, and I'm sure there's a list. There's an 800 number that residents can call in and talk about lights that have been out, and I'm kind of looking at it from an economic standpoint. Are there credits that you can give back to the city that, because every street light is not individually metered. It's just wattage, right? And so, I'd like to think maybe there's some credits that can come back to the city. We pay a lot in utility costs, and maybe that's something, you don't need to answer it here tonight, but that might be just food for thought down, that you can bring back and say, this community is looking for, possibly some credits, because of streetlights that are out. And of course, we're still paying that wattage fee, so hopefully that's something that, maybe we can at least pursue in conversations at some point. The other thing, Dan, while you're up here, that I would like to mention, and I've mentioned this actually during my last tenure as a city councilor, but we never got to discuss it much further. But I would like to also start thinking about how we can maintain a lot of the equipment that we see around the city, guy wires and junction boxes, things like that with graffiti all over it. We fine our businesses, we fine our residents if they have graffiti on their property, but yet there's a lot of equipment that's owned by, and not just National Grid, by the way, by other outside agencies as well. We'd like to see those maintained. We try to keep the city clean. We want a clean city. We want a city that doesn't have all this graffiti and look run down. I don't know if there's a maintenance plan that all the utility companies might have to take care of their respective equipment, but I know personally I'd like to see that going forward, that you take pride in your equipment the same way we ask business owners and residents to take pride in their property, that you'll participate with the city and try to help us keep a clean and good-looking city. That would be my goal. So hopefully that's something, like I say, we can, we can pursue conversations on, if that's agreeable to the members of the council. One last thing that I would like to ask, and I guess, Mr. Mayor, this might be in your purview. When we built the Hill School back several years ago, one of the things that we decided to do, and we paid for, was to move the utility poles across the street on the south side of Park Ave.
Right.
And then, so we had a nice sight line from Broadway down past the stadium, or at least to the stadium. I forget exactly where. But hopefully, I've seen the wire, it looks like wires are being transferred, and
That's correct.
but now we've got a tunnel of poles going down Park Ave. And that's been for quite some time. Do we have a timeline as to when those poles on the
opposite side that
Yeah.
they're moving from? Yeah, our crews have been out there for a number of weeks now, and making those transfers and making those splices. We did notify the job superintendent at the school site that there was still a municipal cable. They had actually run a new cable on the other side and not taken down the old one. So that's going to come down. And once that does, and all of our stuff has been moved, we'll go in and take the poles, because there's no one else on those poles, and it's up to us to take them. So we would be looking, not to interrupt you, but we would be looking to take those as soon as possible.
So just so I'm clear, is it the city that's in the way of this, or are there still other?
No.
Okay.
There's a cable that was owned by the city that had to be brought to the other side. Rather than taking down the old cable and bringing it across the street, they merely ran a new one. But they did not take down the old cable that was on the poles that are about to come down. That's been worked through with project management at the school site. So
that's in progress?
That's in progress.
And
so,
above and beyond that, are there other,
Nope.
Everyone else is off the
else is
poles?
off. That's correct.
So once that happens, then those poles can be removed?
Then we'll schedule those poles, and we want to get them out.
Is there any time, with the project manager from the Hill School, is there any timeline on that?
Well, I'll find out precisely when they're completing the splice over and the wire work. We do have 11 poles in the city. I'd like to, we're bringing in a crew, first hit Park Street, get those out of the way, and then get whatever we might need to get. I'll get an estimate. I would think probably sometime before the end of this quarter.
Oh, fantastic. It's because it's been several years now,
Right.
so, if it's the end of this quarter, that's, that'll be great.
And we're cognizant that, the city's been patient, and you do have an eyesore over there that you're trying to alleviate.
Right.
And since I have the mic, and just to go back to the first issue that came up, the signage, I turned to my colleague Dan, and both of us were shocked to learn that had taken place. And our crews are always taught to, go see the police, see traffic, get the proper signage that is issued by the city, and notice those properties as required. So I'll go back to our crews to make sure that those procedures are being met, and I know Dan will do the same.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilor Rotundo.
Sure. Can we get the answer to Mrs. Abrams' question that was asked earlier? Yeah, was anybody listening? I'm sorry? Yeah, Mrs. Abrams came up, gave about a 5-minute dissertation about what happened. I just want to know what's going to be done.
Oh, you're talking about the signs, the no parking signs? Yeah.
Yep.
I have to admit, I was not aware of that.
I know you didn't put them up there because I didn't see you the night before.
But I'm glad to hear there were some calls made and it was taken care of. I assume it was at the gas side of our business, and I assume it was a contractor that put them up there. I can't explain, but I'll find out. There's signage that we have, and you're right, it's more of a paper
People lost
type.
business that day. That's part of the issue that concerns me the most.
Yeah.
And the other part of the equation is one part, and correct me, Ms. Abrams, if I'm wrong, one actual business had 30-minute parking. So like someone put a 30-minute parking sign there as well. And it was all consistent with the same, I mean, I got the photo. Same consistent lettering, coloring, and in fact, the workers that were there were complaining about the signs actually being removed and owned up to actually owning them.
Yeah.
So I'm a little concerned about that. And I'd like to have someone get back to me on it instead of have this like passive conversation. I want results. That's all.
And that was on Revere Street, the signs, right? Yeah.
That would be correct.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councilor Sambudo, anything?
Not really. Thanks for your cooperation. We go back a lot of years when we didn't have this kind of cooperation. Now, there are some issues that a lot of my colleagues are upset with, and I can understand some of them. Some of them are in your control, some of them out of your control. The DCR problems and all that stuff are difficult issues to deal with. But I remember when we didn't cooperate as well as we do now, so I'm thankful for that.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
President,
Councilor.
Madam President, can we take items 20, 21, 29 out of order and suspend rules for that purpose? Because the Director of
May I
Finance...
speak on this quick before
Oh,
we
sure,
jump onto that?
if you want.
If I may.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm going to echo some sentiments of some of my colleagues, foremost on Councilor Patch's comments. It's extremely frustrating to the people of Revere to fight for years and years and years to get their street paved. Some people are waiting 10, 15, 20 years to get a street paved. They finally get it paved, and a year or two later, there is a hole the length of the street on the side. And it's happened in my whole neighborhood, which Councilor Patch represents, most of Malden Street, a lot of the side streets off of Malden Street. These areas were paved less than 5 years ago, and the entire community has been torn up. And the bigger issue here is, one, it's an issue that we're not kind of coinciding with the city's plan on when streets are paved, because we do have a plan. We have a very comprehensive plan. So if we were in communication with your organization and kind of following that plan, I think it would be much better for our residents and for the city, because it's a waste of money to pave a street, and then those divots in the side are going to be there for another 20 or 30 years until it gets paved again. And it's not right. But the bigger issue is that they're not compacting the trench work properly. So after this trench work is done, the third-party people that are filling them are not compacting them. And this has been an issue since I've been on the council. We've talked about it multiple times, and we know there are procedures that are followed, but if they're not looked upon and we're not checking in on them, there's no way to hold anyone accountable to them. And that's a huge, huge issue for me, because we've been talking about it for 8 years and nothing's happening. I remember Councilor Patch and I talked about Sargent Street for, 2 years? 2 years. It's absolutely insane. So that's a huge concern of mine. And second, in terms of the business, this is not the first time that the business community's been impacted by National Grid or Comcast or Verizon. We had that issue with Fiore's Market a couple months back. We've had several issues where this has impacted our community and Councilor Guanasso's ward. So I would really like to see that communication strengthened. You know, part of the reasons why we have these meetings is not just to beat you guys up about double poles, but to actually see results and see things happen. So I hope that we can strengthen some of that communication so we can be more on top of when streets are being paved. We can be more on top of when businesses are going to be affected, when residents are going to be affected, and hopefully try to stay ahead of the game, because right now we're not. And it's incredibly frustrating because we get the call after it's already too late most of the time. So as much as it's helpful to have these meetings after the fact and talk about the issues, I'd really like to stay ahead of the curve. So thank you for being here, and thank you for listening to us.
Okay, thank you.
Madam President, we have before us the member of a department head. I'd like to suspend rules in order to take up calendar items number 20, 21, and 29.
Absolutely, Council. I'd also like to acknowledge our fire chief, Chief Bright's here as well as the mayor was in attendance. On suspension.
Calendar item number 20, communication from the Director of Finance relative to an act relative to water meter ordinance violations.
Yes, councilors. The reason that we have this special act, the request for the special act, is because this in 20 and 21, I guess, can be spoken about together. While the implementation of the AMR, the automatic meter reading system was done during the city, there were some issues that came up that our ordinances did not address, and we would like to have them addressed. Part of the problem is access. The other part of the problem is people not responding and allowing you to go into their homes in order to inspect the meter, which we have an ordinance that allows us for that, but we don't have any teeth behind it. So the special act will actually put teeth behind that some personnel in the water and sewer department will be able, under 40U, which is a part of the law that we utilize at this point in time for our housing stock. And what happens with 40U is the ticket is given, then it raises to another amount and at a daily fine of a certain amount, and then when it remains unpaid for a certain amount of time, it can be attached to your tax bill, and then property can be foreclosed on. So this will allow the city to have some teeth behind the ordinances that are being asked to pass, because our water and sewer system is now a $24–25 million business that we have to run, not properly, but have to run efficiently. And there are those people who have not allowed us in their homes to put in the new meters. And not only that, in the future, if a meter needs to be repaired, we need to get in there to make certain that everybody is charged their fair amount for water and sewer. So that's what we're asking for at this time for number 20 and 21 of the actual ordinances. So if there are any questions in the council, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any councilors have any questions? All right, seeing as there are none, we'll take up number 20 first, and that will be a roll call.
On an act relative to water meter ordinance violations, Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morabito. Yes. Yes. Councilor Novoselsky is absent. Councilor Patch.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers. Yes. Yes. Councilor Rizzo. Yes. Yes. Councilor Rotundo. Yes. Yes. Councilor Zambudo. Yes. Yes. And Council President Janino.
Yes.
Yes. The act will now be forwarded to the state legislature. Calendar item number 21, communication from the Director of Finance relative to an ordinance amending the water and sewer ordinances of the City of Revere.
Any councilors have any questions on this? This will be ordered to a public hearing on April 23rd.
Calendar item number 29, a late communication from the Director of Finance relative to the bond rating upgrade from Standard & Poor's Global Rating Agency.
Before I speak on this, I know the mayor wanted to be here to do that, and he got called away for a minute, but I'd like to give him time to come back and speak before I do, if that's okay with the city council.
Yeah, we can take it back out of order when
Okay, if you would.
Just give us a wave.
Okay. And then I can continue with the public hearings. Okay. If you,
Just stay under suspension, just take up the public hearing? Yeah.
Calendar item number 4, hearing called is ordered on a proposed loan order in the amount of $50,000 for a feasibility study for the reconstruction of the Point of Pines Fire Station.
Any proponents here this evening?
yes, I would like to note that I'm a proponent. My name is George Anzoni, and I'm the Director of Finance for the City of Revere. My address is 281 Broadway, Revere, Mass. The reason I am a proponent for this, because what this will do is start a study that's necessary in order to make certain that we have the proper public safety, level of public safety in that area of the city. As you're aware, there are a number of apartment complexes being developed down in that area, and that the response time during certain summer months or the warmer months has risen. So, as you know, it's very important to have the response time by a safety vehicle to be at the lesser amount it can. So, looking at this, the city is asking for the $50,000, so we do a feasibility study. What should we do with this building? How can it be useful to us? It's in it'll be part of a program that for the fire department, so that they can place equipment down there and man it during certain hours or certain months. That's been in the plan. The station's been closed since the 1990s and has been opened at certain times during the warmer months when a need has arisen. Whether we reconstruct the building that's there, or we actually raise the building and decide whether or not, and not decide whether or not, but decide the type of building that would replace the building that's there. So, in order to get to that point, and in order to get a loan order, we need a feasibility study at that time. The manning of the station can be accomplished with discussions from the fire chief. We can say that, it can be manned. It has been manned in the past, again during the summer months or the warmer months, and the special event times. So it's very important that we have a stronger public safety presence down in that area, because, again, as I said, there are a number of apartment complexes being built there. There'll be much more, or many more citizens that we may have to take care of. So, and it will lessen the response time. So if you have any other further questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Thank you. Any other proponents here this evening? Any proponents? Chief Bright?
Good evening, Madam President. Chief Bright, 400 Broadway, Revere Fire Chief, speaking. I'm a proponent of the study. I think it's the time's right now to look to rebuild and reopen the Point of Pines Fire Station. It's been closed for about 25 years for the majority of the time. We've opened it for 4th of July weekends. We've opened it for certain storms. But I believe that right now, I've been down there, I've walked that station from bottom to top with city engineers, and I believe it's beyond its useful life. This past winter, George made some great points about the station and response times and how the area is being built up, but what was really alarming to me, because I haven't seen it a lot in my 30-plus years here on the fire department, but the Pines area was essentially an island unto itself during those storm surges. There were times when, if we hadn't pre-deployed to that area down Mills Avenue, we probably wouldn't have been able to get down there. North Shore Road was underwater, Revere Beach Boulevard was underwater, so there's no easy way by motor vehicle or fire engine to get down there if you're not already down in that neighborhood. You don't have a footprint down there. So it has my concern, and I hope the council supports this $50,000 for the study. We can get this thing going on a fast track. As far as Manning's concerned, I've been working with the mayor. We got a grant this last fiscal year. We went from 98 to 102 firefighters. We're putting in for another grant this year for another 4 firefighters to bring us up to 106. And if it looks like we're going to be moving to go on this fire station, then we'll be upping our grant proposals to get us up to the manpower we need to open that station. Any questions? Council McKenna?
We're still in proponents, Counselor. We're going to open it up to the council. We're going to let all proponents and all opponents speak, and then we'll allow all councilors to ask questions of everyone at the end.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Madam President. Brian Arrigo, 37 Sweeney Ave. I am here to speak in favor of the feasibility study regarding the Pines Fire Station. This is, I think, a building that we all know and agree on, similar to the DPW facility that has grown into disrepair. One thing that we've taken a hard look at, and I think it has been shown in some of the work that we've done and some of the work that we'll talk about tonight, especially around capital expenditures, is to take a good look at our assets as a community, and those include our buildings, and seeing what kind of condition they're in and whether or not we make investments in those buildings, or if we think about building new buildings. And the need for a fire station down the Pines is pretty clear. I know that I have worked with Chief Bright, as he alluded to, in terms of making sure that we have the staffing in place. But I think right now, the opportunity that we have to build a new facility down the Pines is much needed, and one that we can handle financially, and one that we will ultimately staff. So I am in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any other proponents? Any other proponents? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any opponents wishing to speak? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. This time we'll open it up to councilors. Councilor McKenna.
Chief Bright, could I ask you a question? So we talk about Point of Pines, and I'd like to talk about Beachmont.
Of course.
Just a little bit, and ask your opinion about Beachmont. So during the storm surge, we had a number of streets closed. Do you think that Beachmont is a safety issue without a fire station there?
Well, our Parkway station can respond there. There's no issue getting down to Pearl Ave. There's no issue getting down to Winthrop Parkway, Broad Sound, any of those locations, easily accessible via Winthrop Avenue, or Revere Beach Parkway.
Any other councilors on this? Councilor, we'll start with Powers and work our way down.
Thank you, Madam President. I am the ward council that represents that area. As the chief alluded to, there were several times when North Shore Road and the boulevard simultaneously were shut off. Point of Pines was an island. And that's in the wintertime, not to mention the summertime. That building is in so much disrepair now that they've moved for safety reasons, we moved the voting out of that building to the Point of Pines Yacht Club. The central question is here, is the building adequate to handle emergencies, not just today or tomorrow or 2 or 3 years from now, but down the road? You've got the Breakers, you've got the St. George, the SATA, the Atlantica, you've got all of that property down on Ocean Avenue, Vanguard, 650. You've got the Beach House, you've got the property next to Beach House, which we all know is going to be developed someday. It's not a secret. You've got G&J. That's a tow yard, but it's not going to be a tow yard forever. Something's going to go over in on Mills Ave sooner or later. Hopefully it's something the residents over there are happy with. But the bottom line is you need that station down there. And you need to be able to, sometime down the road, put a ladder truck in there and a small watercraft. That's so important. You can't just leave a whole section. We're not talking about just the Point of Pines now. We're talking about Revere Beach Boulevard. We're talking about Oak Island, Lower Revere Street. Prime example, A big fire going over in Beachmont. What's going over there? Ladder 1, engine 1. Engine 4, ladder, engine 5. That's going. So all you've got covering the city, that section of the city, is a ladder truck on Broadway and a pump up in North Revere.
Correct.
It doesn't work, and I know the chief would agree with that. I've had several discussions with him. This is so important to get that station rebuilt. And I know there have been questions, and I understand those questions about, well, can we staff it? Let's say tomorrow morning, could we staff it? That we had the monies to staff it. We couldn't staff it because it's not habitable. It's not set up for the way it should be. So let's get that station built. Let's get the money a couple of years from now to staff it when it would be built. And let's give the people down there some assurances that their public safety is on a fast track. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rizzo.
Thank you very much, Madam President. And Chief, thank you for being here. I have to say, and I'm not going to say that it's on you, but I had offered up a motion back in January that unanimously passed the City Council that you and the mayor would appear here before us to talk about pumpers that were out of service. What prompted the initial motion was a pumper at Central Fire that was out of service when that fire on Central Ave occurred. Just wanted to find out, this is all in a helpful way. Do you have enough overtime? Do you need more overtime? What's your staffing level? And it's a little frustrating. We're talking about a loan order right now when, quite honestly, I haven't had the respect as a city councilor to have a response to that motion for you to come up and just explain to us what the needs of the department are, if there are brownouts or if there are apparatus that's out of service. Now, this currently is in the Ways and Means Committee, which I chair and will be calling a meeting for in the not-too-distant future. But one of the concerns that I have is staffing. In fact, I didn't realize you only had 98. It was higher than that as of a couple years ago, as best I can recall. I'll have to go back to the budget to look at that.
I can answer all these questions for you, Counselor.
Okay. Well, that's great. That's great. I appreciate it. And, we'll obviously have a subcommittee meeting where we can hash everything else out. But, as I say, from January, April, just a little unusual as best I can recall. So we will be having a Ways and Means Committee meeting to discuss it. I think there's an absolute need for a fire station down there. We're talking right now, not just the new apartments that are being built down in Councilor Powers' area, but Councilor McKenna had asked about equipment getting down to her area, and they're talking, 3,000 more apartments just in the Revere side of Suffolk Downs alone. I don't know how that's going to impact the fire department with respect to medical aid and possible fires down there. I don't know how they're going to be building. There are a lot of projects that are going up now are being not built with concrete and steel. They're being built with wood, so clearly that presents more of a possibility for any type of fire. So, I think we do need to have a talk about staffing, and, not a contentious talk about staffing, a talk about what do we need in this community? What does a community our size need in terms of staffing levels with respect to the fire department, with respect to the police department? These are things that we have to look at as councilors and people that are trying to, protect the public, which is, of course, what we're trying to do here. So I'm looking forward to having this conversation in subcommittee so we can move forward. And if, once we get the feasibility study done, we'll see what that leads to. Does it lead to a new building? Does it lead to repairs? And then hopefully concurrently with that, we can talk about, okay, we got this new building here. What's the plan, short-term, long-term, to staff it? A real plan, so that we know going forward. We just don't want to, obviously, we don't want to throw good money after bad, right? So, we want to, if it could be money spent on, on manpower as opposed to a building, if that's the real problem. You want to do everything, and of course we do, but that's all going to come down to, what the city can take on. And I'm glad to hear that the numbers are going up. You said it's going up from 98 now to 102?
Yes.
Okay. So that's a step in the right direction. So, Madam President, I'll just say I will save the rest of my questions for subcommittee. You know, and maybe at that point, we can also pursue, you know, what I had asked for back in January so that
We
we
can do it
can.
right now if you'd like.
Well, that's up to Madam President.
We're
It's
going
up
to
to
stick
her. I
to the
know there's
agenda,
other.
but we can definitely discuss it in subcommittee.
Okay.
Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I don't agree with opening up the Point of Pines Fire Station. I think it's a misstep. There was I believe, a study by former Chief Doherty, and I believe at one point he even lobbied the state to put in an omnibus act with Rep. DeLeo. Matter of fact, I spoke to him today at Mr. Fester's funeral, and I'd like to give him a moment of silence when we have a second to do so. If we, I wasn't here, that's why, so I apologize. But with that said, what are you basing your realization on it? Because you can't affect the waterborne rescue from that building.
I think the Point of Pines has been basically underserved for 25 years.
Okay. So
That
how do you-
area it's a big gap in coverage down there. It's a long ride down to the Point of Pines,
I work for
even from
Cataldo, I
Engine
know it.
5.
Nope, I work for Cataldo. Most of your calls down there are
The
medical
area
aids.
has grown the past 25 years. It's not what it was 25 years ago. The weather has changed, and our storm surges have changed the last 25 years. We're seeing stuff we never saw before, and now it's just happening. We're getting 100-year storms every month.
Do we have a number of what our medical aid calls are for down there versus?
I can get all the numbers. I don't have the numbers with me tonight, Counselor.
Sure.
But it's certainly
So
something we can put together.
My thought is having, you know, the idea of possibly working with the DCR and the state to put in a fire station right next door to the MDC facility would be probably the better place, considering part of the issue is actually waterborne rescue. That's what you're talking about right now. You'll be able to.
It's a fire station I'm talking about. That's just one component of the
Correct.
fire station, the water rescue. I had to basically put a crew down Engine 5, this last storm, to kind of help
And the
be
major-
prepared to get down to
Sure.
the Pines before it got flooded, so I'd have somebody down there.
So knowing where most of your calls are, I mean, as Councilor Powers just pointed out, the majority of the population is on the boulevard, or at least that's what it is in the voting block, from my knowledge, factual. So there's more people on the boulevard and on Ocean Avenue right now by number than there is in the Pines and over on Mill Street by number, by fact. So what's the number for medical aid? That's what we need to find out. And then you would want to strategically put your building closer to where your numbers are, correct?
Not necessarily. We want to keep coverage for the entire city. So if that meant, the nearest fire station
Which would-
7 minutes away from the Pine, that would not,
Which would be closer to Revere Street.
Depends on traffic and where it's located, to be quite frank.
I'd like to have the study incorporate that, because at that point, not knowing what your call volumes are, not knowing what your medical aid numbers are.
I can't tell you the call numbers for that area. We can put that together.
But,
All calls we'll put together for you. But again, I can tell you that our call volume's gone up incredibly. Every year it's
question.
gone up by 500 runs. So,
The population's
know-
aged, I mean, that's a given.
and there's more people in the city.
Yep.
25 years ago, it was 40,000. Today, it is 60,000.
And then the
It's a big difference.
overdoses.
And our numbers went from 140 firefighters down to 102 today.
Yep, no question, and then we got the overdoses to deal with too.
Right, so, I mean, we're trying to address it, and this is a big gap in our coverage, the Point of Pines. And this is the type of thing that keeps me up at night. This is one of the big things. It's very serious. It's not just about how many medical aid calls are down there, it's how do we serve that community when the storm surge comes or whatever's coming our way? How are we gonna respond?
How do you respond from the fire station if there's a waterborne issue?
Counselor, can we
you have
take
to
these up
go-
in committee?
Of course, thank you.
Thank you, Counselor. All right, this will be referred to the Ways and Means Subcommittee.
Calendar item number 5, Hearing called is ordered on a proposed loan order in the amount of $11 million for the construction of a Department of Conservation and Recreation Maintenance Facility.
Any proponents here to speak this evening?
Yes, I'm a proponent of this. My name is George Anzoni, and I'm the Director of Finance for the City of Revere, 281 Broadway, Revere. This loan order is for $11 million. And the reason the amount is so high, that's the total amount of construction cost at this time that we see for the DCR facility. However, let me make it clear, at the outset, there are some funds that are available through an escrow account through the sale of land, and which will come off of this $11 million figure. Then there is our other funds that may become available at that time. So during the time of the construction. So looking at that, we are asking for $11 million because the way the vendor needs to get paid is going through the DCR presently, waiting for his payment, and it may take up to 2 or 3 months. If the city pays and then we reimburse, and we get reimbursed by the DCR, it may be beneficial to the city because a contractor may bid less than the $11 million. The bids are actually in the purchasing agent downstairs. Whether or not which one is going to be chosen being under review. However, I do want to make it clear that the expected total amount to be that will, out of that $11 million will probably be about 5, but certain things still may happen. There's the money in the escrow account, which is somewhere in the area of $5 million. Then there's another parcel of land that will be sold and expected to take $1.2 million. And then there is negotiation with DCR, see if they'll have any matching of funds for the city of Revere. So that'll bring it down quite a bit. And down below the 5, and maybe down to even 2 or 3. But I can't say at this time because there are a number of variables that have to take place. The reason this was done, it has, and as I said in my letter to the City Council, that there are a number of things that happened because of the arrangement that was made between the partnership with the MBTA and the DCR, along with the federal government in that area. There was close to $100 million in infrastructure investment put down there since 2001, when this was 2000, when this was brought up by then Mayor Thomas Ambrosino. There was $10 million for resanding. There was $10 million for installation of new sidewalks on the northern stretch of the beach in place of the former angle parking arrangement. $2+ million for utility work on Ocean Avenue and Revere Beach Boulevard. $50 million for reconstruction MBTA's Wonderland Station, the creation of an integrated consolidated bus depot, and the construction of a new 1,875 car parking garage, along with the $20 million construction of a public plaza and iconic pedestrian bridge linking the beach to Wonderland multi-modal transit facility. So with all of that, the city of Revere has benefited greatly by having the control of the development, somewhat of the control of development down there, by choosing the partner that they would choose for the development, which they have. And then further, looking at the parcels that have been done, plus if you look at the development that was done there, where the city of Revere has received additional amount of taxes since the development has been done, and when further development done, they will receive those additional real estate taxes. You're looking at an increase of maybe $2 or $3 million a year in taxable property, and we're already receiving somewhere in the area of $2 million at this time. So with all of that, I am a proponent of this. This was an arrangement made back in 2000 and then solidified in by an enactment of the Acts of 2001, Chapter 183, that was passed by the Revere City Council and then sent to the state legislature, which finally enacted the that chapter in 2011. So again, this is something that needs to be done. It's something required to be done because of the past agreements that were made by the city, and in order to continue to do what we're doing, we have to keep pretty much our promise to the or a part of the bargain with DCR and continue by building the DCR facility. And that'll be one of the last steps that we need. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other proponents? Any other proponents here this evening? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Are there any opponents here this evening? Anyone opposed wishing to speak? Seeing and hearing none, we'll close that side of the hearing. Any counselors? Councilor Ganasso.
Thank you, Madam President. Last week, I had the pleasure of sitting down at the meeting that was discussed at the State House, and Leo Roy, the Director of DCR, the Commissioner of DCR, was there. I'm very impressed with the individual and his knowledge of Revere Beach and what his focus is going to be. It's going to be on traffic. It's going to be in certain things that will help the citizens of our city. Am I pleased with the 11 million that we're involved with here? If it was part of an agreement back in 2000, then we have to honor it. I wish we made some different type of agreement than back then, but we have to live with what we signed off on. And certainly, as the Director of Finance has alluded to, that there are going to be some millions coming back in return for land sale and stuff like that. So we have to do what we have to do to maintain and have a facility there, and it's going to be a bathhouse for the beachgoers to utilize. And so I just think that it's incumbent upon us that we have to proceed to vote for this. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Powers.
Thank you, Madam President. I be honest with you, I was very impressed at that meeting with the Commissioner. He seems to have an abundant knowledge of what's happening on that boulevard. When I first got elected to the City Council, there were light poles with wires hanging out of the bottom of them. As a matter of fact, I went up with Councilor Rizzo one night to Hampton Beach, and every 10 o'clock, every night, you see the sweeper coming along, and we wondered why we couldn't have that in Revere. We wondered why we couldn't have the new water line going down the boulevard, which they paid for half of and we paid for half of. We wondered why we couldn't have a correction to the parking down there, which would be to eliminate the angle parking and provide the state police with better access to those vehicles that are parked there that we didn't have before. An awful lot has happened on Revere Beach. You've got a brand-new roadway down there. You've got brand-new lighting. You've got brand-new traffic angles down there. It's just a more positive place. More people are coming back to Revere Beach. And when I hear somebody tonight talk against a fire station for the Point of Pines and Revere Beach, it bothers me a little, because then I hear the rhetoric up here about adding 150 or 145 new apartments down there. That's what really troubles me. So I think to this thing here, I think, was it $6 million, George, potential from the, okay, so what are we talking, $5 million?
We're talking, well, $6 million, so you're talking $5 million, then there's another, excuse me, Council, I'm sorry about that. I was digging through my papers, but there's $6 million, about approximately $6 million worth of monies. Then there's another parcel of land that will be sold for about $1.2 million is the estimated value.
Yep.
And then beyond that, there may be some other monies that the DCR may kick in. But that all has to be negotiated, and when that's negotiated, at least the building is being built, and we're keeping our end of our partnership with the DCR.
I mean, how many times do you hear people walking along the boulevard and like down from the Shirley Avenue area, they have to walk all the way up to Oak Island to find a relief station?
Mm-hmm.
This is so sorely needed. And if we're going to keep the maintenance of that area up down there, we certainly need that maintenance yard. No one should be able to deny that. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Rizzo.
Madam President, just to follow up on what the Director of Finance said, this is something that the city is obligated to. I mean, this has been really part of the plan since 2000, when all of this began down at Parcel H, and that whole area from the corner of Revere Street all the way down to Wonderland Station. So this is an obligation that the city signed on to. I know it's going to go to committee, or it is in committee, actually, but as far as I'm concerned, it's going to be a formality because we are contractually obligated to undertake this because we have received benefit on our end, that would prompt these circumstances. So I just wanted to, let the councilors, at least those of them who weren't aware or really, I mean, this is something that we've been part of for a long time, and this has to be done. And it is going to be a benefit, by the way, to Revere residents once it's completed. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you. Councilor Rotundo.
Thank you. I agree with the finding the money for we have to do it for the maintenance shed. I do want to point out, having a difference as to where you want to put a fire station does not mean that you want to not protect the Pines or anywhere else. And I kind of find it funny considering I believe I'm probably the only one up here that's actually, provided care to people in the Pines, Revere Beach Boulevard, the Sada House, over the past 20 years. But if anybody wants to make a comment regarding that, that's more their choice than their knowledge. So I'm all for this, and I will point out that Chief Doherty has spoken about possibly finding money at the state level for a fire station on the beach with the DCR, and I don't understand why we would be spending money on something that could possibly come from the state in a shared product. And I just want the city to look at all avenues instead of just looking at one perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Zambudo.
Thank you, Madam President. I remember vividly when we were trying to get this land to be able to develop it. And former Mayor Ambrosino spent 12 years of his career working on this. So these are, Councilor Rizzo said it, these are contractual agreements that we entered into. Unfortunately, I think the original cost of this maintenance facility was estimated at $4 million. But you fast forward 18 years and $4 million becomes 11 million. So we are absolutely committed to this. We are obligated to do it. And in the end, it's all part of the transit-oriented development project. It would have never been off the ground without those agreements being made. We would have never got the land and been able to develop anything there. So we'd still have trees there and nothing else. So we're committed to it, and we need to move forward with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. And if I may, I just have one brief comment on this. I wish I knew about the meeting with the representative from the DCR, because I have to say, as a councilor, it's incredibly frustrating of their lack of commitment back to the city. And we talked about this in previous meetings. When there's a set of lights out, it's the DCR's property, they have to help us. And there are sets of lights in the city that we've been waiting to have recalibrated and had issues fixed for years. When there's street lights out for 4 years, it's, they're DCR lights, that's why they haven't been replaced yet. When there's an issue on a street, and we can't respond to it, it's DCR property, they have to help us. But when events such as the sandcastles come in, and our own police departments and our own teams are there, it's nope, this is the DCR's project, we're gonna take care of it. So I find it incredibly frustrating that we're waiting on responses for things that provide services to our citizens, like streetlights, like stoplights, like traffic signalization, so many things that the DCR provides to our city, especially on the roadways, that we're waiting on, but we can so quickly give them $11 million. So I have my reservations, but I understand it's something we have to do. But I hope that with this new facility, they can commit to some better services for our residents, because the wait time of years is completely unacceptable. This will go to Ways and Means. While we're under suspension, Madam Clerk, can we take up calendar item 14?
Calendar item number 14, communication from the mayor regarding appropriations related to the capital improvement plan.
Mr. Mayor.
Madam President, very briefly, I think the council will remember that last year, the city engaged with the University of Massachusetts Collins Center to put together a capital budget. What you have before you this evening are the appropriations from our capital reserve account for the items that were mostly listed in our capital, in that capital budget that was prepared by the city and the Collins Center. One item that is included in there that is over and above what had been previously identified by the city and by the Collins Center as a capital need is the $500,000 for additional road and sidewalk work. The idea behind that additional $500,000 is that we would take a look at the street scan analysis that was done last year, and that we would be able to dedicate an additional amount over and above Chapter 90 to fix our roads and sidewalks. Obviously, that's an important part of what we do here every day, an important capital investment, and this amount of the $500,000 over and above Chapter 90, I think is probably the first time that the city has ever dedicated an additional amount over and above what the state gives us. But it gives us that flexibility to take a look at the analysis that was done and really pick off some of the areas that we know need investment. And in terms of how that money would be divvied up, I know my ward councils are probably looking and saying, okay, how's this going to work? I look forward to sitting down with the ward councils and frankly any councilor who's interested and going over the street scan results, which I know we had sent off to you, but I think it might be helpful to have some staff walk through it with everyone, and then take a hard look at what streets have been identified, what areas we can make investments, and we can have a discussion about how that money gets distributed over and above Chapter 90. But this is a nice first step. There are a number of additional items, but they were included in the analysis that was done. If anyone has any questions about those, we'll be happy to answer them. And just to refresh everyone's memory, but this was part of the capital reserve account that we had created last year. So this is, I think, the proof of some of the hard work that we've done financially in terms of setting aside some money in our reserves and then making those investments that we know that we need to make in the assets that we own. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than willing to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anyone else wishing to speak on this? Roll call?
Shall the city council approve a transfer in the amount of $1,148,000 from the Capital Improvement Trust Fund to various departments as reported on the city auditor's verification of funds dated March 29th, 2018? Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo?
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes, the transfers have been approved.
And Madam Clerk, while we're under suspension, can we take up calendar item number 29?
Calendar item number 29, late communication from the Director of Finance relative to the bond rating upgrade from Standard & Poor's Global Rating Agency.
Madam President, I'll let the Director of Finance speak to more detail, but over the weekend, and I apologize that this is a late communication, but over the weekend, or late last week, I think Friday afternoon, we had received word from Standard & Poor's that we had received a bond rating upgrade, which is some great news for the city. I know we had some good news financially about our free cash number that was certified. This is another great indicator, a nice acknowledgement from our bond rating agencies that shows that we are moving in the right direction and that we're continuing to be a strong fiscally managed community. One thing that you'll note, if you look at the report or the summary that was put together by Standard & Poor's, one of the areas of potential concern is around OPEB, which is other pension and employment, post-employment benefits. As the Director of Finance mentioned, when we certified our free cash, we are looking to make an investment in OPEB that would be the first that the city's ever made, to reduce that obligation over the course of the next couple of years. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised to see that the one thing that they had pointed as a potential weakness is something that we are currently addressing. And I want to thank the council for their hard work. I think this is good news that we can all share in, and we can all share the credit in. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Anybody else wishing to speak?
I would just like to bring to your attention, I sent in my communication the rating itself, excuse me, I sent the communication from Standard & Poor's to the City Council, and they believe that budgetary flexibility factors have improved due to recent strong economic performance, and their outline is very quick. It's strong economy, adequate management, strong budgetary performance, very strong budgetary flexibility, very strong liquidity, and adequate debt and contingent liability position, and a strong institutional framework score. So what they did during the rating call that we had, the mayor and myself talked about all areas of the city. It's a long discussion. It's about an hour and a half long. In every area of the city, before they analyze it, as you know, every area of the city is covered, and you can see that in the report. And I think, again, as I said in my letter, I think the city council, the mayor, and city staff should take credit for this, for the hard work they've done. And I think it's a great thing. We're at a AA stable, which is a move from AA minus with a positive outlook. It's a click up, and now we have to look for the next click, which is the highest rating, the AAA. So that's what we'll be working on, trying to get to that. When I came in here 40 years ago, and I hate to say it that long, we had no bond rating. So it's gone up quite a bit since then. And if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Thank you, George. Any other counselors?
Thank
Placed on file. Back to the regular order of business.
Unfinished business, calendar item number 6, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo that the City Council award a plaque for commending District Attorney Dan Conley in helping the residents of Revere and all of Suffolk County.
Counselor.
Thank you. I'll leave the majority of my comments for the night that we can accommodate Dan. I will tell you that District Attorney Conley is an exemplary person, fed staffs in his abilities as a district attorney, but you know, his commitment to service is well over 20 years, and I'd like to provide him the accolades for such. And as he is retiring, this is something that I'd like to present to him when he gets here, and hopefully that we can do this in the near future. Thank you.
On the motion, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 7, motion presented by Councilor Rotundo that the mayor provide funding for the Safe Saturdays program.
Counselor.
This is a no-brainer. It's a very, very, very small number. In fact, what it is money that can be used to pay the schools to keep janitors to open up the high school. I've witnessed on 8 different occasions, well over 30 kids playing ball, mixing it up. Just talking to Wayne Rose about pretty much anything and everything, and just keeping these kids off the street. You know, the other day I got a call from my daughter when I was at work. It was around 8 o'clock, and she said, Dad, I'm bored. And I just said to myself, oh, Jesus, because she's just like me, and I'm saying to myself, she's going to get in trouble. So thank God I ended up, you know, get my other daughter, pick her up, and they went out and they ended up playing some basketball. But that said, idle time is the devil's workshop, and if we can put 10 kids down there in that project, in that program that he has, or 20, or 30, which he does have, this is an easy lift. This is a small amount of money. Many of us have given him money to pay the janitors to open up that school. it's time that the city comes forward and does something. This is a small number. We have $6 million in free cash. I'll take the change from that $6 million and put it towards this program. And it's not going in his product. He's doing this for free. He's doing this out of his own goodwill. All he's doing is paying the city of Revere. So we can do that. And I'm surprised the mayor kind of ran out so quickly. But that's a shame. All right, thank you.
On the motion, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Next up is the zoning subcommittee report.
Counselor.
Thank you. I'd like to report out favorably. And Madam Clerk, you're going to have to help me with, yeah, please. The Chara Development LLC, the site plan review, as well of the current changes that are documented with the clerk. Madam Clerk, I believe there's maybe 2 other items that I'm missing.
Counselor, it was the revised plan, as well as the site plan review conditions. That was from a letter from 11/27/17 from site plan review. I have that in the vote.
And the other product that we need to come forward is the zoning change for Ibrahim El Kharin on 404 Revere Beach Parkway, which is also voted out favorably, in which we extend the TED zoning district to 394 and 404 Revere Beach Parkway accordingly. Shall we take them up for a roll call, Madam?
Madam Clerk, on the first? Oh, they'll be separate. Yep.
This is on item 17-407, HR Development LLC, seeking permission from the Revere City Council to raise the existing non-conforming structures and construct a new 6-story mixed-use structure with 2 commercial units on the first floor and 145 residential units on the remaining floors. Shall the City Council grant the relief requested in accordance with the revised plan dated February 27, 2018 by Engineering Alliance for 320-329 Revere Beach Boulevard, subject to the findings and conditions of site plan review, which is dated 11/27/17. Counselor Guanasso.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe.
No.
No. Counselor McKenna.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Powers.
No.
No. Counselor Rizzo.
No?
No. Counselor Rotundo. Yes. Counselor Zambudo?
Yes.
Yes, and Council President Janino?
Yes.
Yes, the special permit has been granted, subject to the findings and conditions of site
Suspension
plan
of
review.
rules.
On suspension, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
I hope it does not prevail.
On reconsideration with hopes that it does not prevail. All in favor? All opposed? So ordered. Back to the regular order of business. Take up item number 11.
11. Oh.
All right, we're on calendar item number 11. This will be ordered to a second reading. Ordered to a third and final reading. Roll call for engrossment and ordainment.
Shall the City Council approve the zoning ordinance amendment by extending the boundaries of the TED zoning district to 394 and 404 Revere Beach Parkway? Counselor Guanasso.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Keefe.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor McKenna.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Morbido.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Novoselsky.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Patch.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Powers.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rizzo.
Yes.
Yes. Counselor Rotundo. Yes. Counselor Zambudo.
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Janino.
Yes.
Yes, the zoning ordinance has been engrossed and ordained.
Madam President, suspension of rules.
On suspension of rules, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Reconsideration in the hopes that it will not prevail.
On reconsideration with hopes that it does not prevail. All in favor? All opposed? So ordered. Back to the regular order of business.
The Appointments Subcommittee report.
Madam President?
Counselor.
Madam President, earlier this afternoon, the Appointments Subcommittee met we had one item before us, 18-114, appointment of Rick Frenny, 37 Madison Street, Revere, as a co-chair of the Commission on Disabilities. We voted this out favorably by the subcommittee, and I wish the council and the whole does the same. Thank you, Madam President.
On the appointment, roll call.
Roll call on the appointment as confirmed by Councilor Guanasso. Councilor Guanasso.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Keefe.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor McKenna.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Morbido.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Novoselsky.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Patch.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Powers.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rizzo.
Yes.
Yes. Councilor Rotundo. Yes. Councilor Zambudo.
Yes.
Yes. And Council President Gino.
Yes.
Yes, the appointment of Rick Frenny has been confirmed. Calendar item number 13, communication from Leo Roy, DCR Commissioner, relative to the DCR Maintenance Facility Agreement. Council President, calendar item, the remaining communications, 15 through 19, 22, 23, and 1 late are all appointments relative to drain layers.
Madam President, regarding J.J. O'Brien, they need a new bond certificate and a power of attorney. They can provide that, and also Marchese needs a new updated liability insurance policy. So if we can make sure those are in before we vote on.
So that brings us to calendar item 24, I believe, Madam Clerk?
On to motions, calendar item number 24, motion presented by Councilor McKenna, that the mayor request the city planner to draft a zoning ordinance amending the dimensional regulations to allow for a 35-foot maximum height on lots located in a flood zone within the RA, RA1, RB, and RB1 zoning districts. Oh, sorry, maximum allowable stories within these districts shall remain as 2.5.
Councilor McKenna.
Thank you, Madam President. So, you know, we have a lot of big developers creating big developments here. And we also have independent developers, the little guys that build single families and two-family houses. The restriction on a single development, according with the current ordinance, is 30 feet. What they're asking for is to go up 35 feet. After the development has complied with the restrictions of building in a flood zone, they are losing much of the top structure because of the foundation. The roof is, some of the roofs are 3 feet. They can't have an attic up there. They can't have storage space, so they're just, so people are asking, the independent contractors are just asking for another 5 feet, which it used to be 5 feet, but they lowered it to 30 feet. It used to be 35 feet. So I'm just asking to go up to another 5 feet. And I'm also, I want to put a definition of, just add it, Ashley, if you can. Townhouses, the definition, just have townhouses as a two-family structure with 2 separate entrances. Can we do that?
Townhouse is already defined within the city ordinances.
Okay, can we change it?
Legislative affairs.
Councilor McKenna, through the president to you, I have an update. I received a communication today from Frank Stringy with some ordinance amendments that speak to that. It just hasn't made it to the agenda yet. Okay?
On Councilor McKenna's motion, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 25, motion presented by Councilor McKenna, that the mayor request the DPW to contract out street signage for the entire city. The months and years of backlog for sign requests cannot be completed by one DPW worker when that DPW worker often has other tasks to perform, which may well very be at a higher priority than a sign. Many traffic commission regulations have been passed, especially in relation to resident parking. The new regulations cannot be enforced until the signs are installed correctly. Further, many parking violations must be adjudicated due to missing or incorrect signage.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilor McKenna.
So I did talk to the mayor tonight, and we did come up with a solution. He said they are performing more signage in the city, and that I have to just be patient. And my ward will, they'll get to my ward. But I just want to say that, and I just gave a list to 311, but these signages that I put in, motions that I put in over 2 years ago. So 311 wasn't around at that time, and they still haven't been done. We have streets that are permanent parking, that are on the books, that have been passed by the Traffic Commission, that have been passed by this council, and they're still not up. And that was over a year ago. So, I mean, it gets frustrating when people say, I got a ticket, and there's no signage that it's permanent parking. And I say, well, you know, it's not, I put it in, now it's up to the city. So, you know, it just gets frustrating as a ward councilor if you're not you're putting things in there and you're working hard and nothing's getting done. So, well, things aren't getting done. So, and that's my frustration, so I'm gonna leave it like that.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Novoselsky.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, I feel for Council McKenna. Everybody knows I went through this a couple of years ago, and I had the same motion in. And unfortunately, may have been approved by the mayor. I don't remember which mayor it was, but it wasn't activated. But from what I found out was, and I'm not putting a blame on anybody, and I don't want anybody to take this in a negative context. From what I found out was that a lot of the signage that was approved by the Traffic Commission was approved, but unfortunately, the staff of the Traffic Commission never sent it down to DPW to get the work done. And the reason was because, and no offense, I'm going to use your father's name, Sergeant Janino is understaffed and overworked. And a lot of the paperwork never got down to the sign department to get it done. It's not a blame. But, you know, the mayor is aware of this. He is going to work on getting some administrative staff for the Traffic Commission and get those things done. But I know the things are in 311, I'm sorry, and they will work on them. And again, I feel for you. I feel your pain. I've been there, done that. So take that with a positive thing. Thank you.
Any other counselors on this motion? I'm sure that extra help will be much appreciated. On the motion, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered.
Calendar item number 26, motion presented by Councilor Keefe, that the mayor request MassDOT to clean and repaint the Route 1 overpass on Mountain Avenue.
Counselor Keefe.
Thank you, Madam President. Motion speaks for itself. It's an entry into Ward 4, and it's an entry into Revere from Washington Ave, and I think sprucing that area up would be very nice. So I'd like to see that done. Thank you.
On the motion, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered. 27.
Calendar item number 27, motion presented by Councilor Powers, that the mayor requests Samusa to maintain the bus shelter at Mahoney Circle by removing the graffiti and clean the general area.
Councilor Powers.
Speak for itself, Madam President.
Madam President, if I may.
Yes.
Thank you. Madam President, through you to Councilor Powers. Councilor Powers, hello.
Go ahead.
Is that the one across from
That's the one
Dunkin'
where
Donuts?
everybody from Ward 2
I'm just
goes and waits
asking,
for the
I'm asking a
bus.
simple
Yes.
question, Counselor.
Well, there's your answer.
Is that the one across from Dunkin' Donuts at Shirley Ave?
Exactly, yeah.
Thank you. Well, just a correction, so you have a little information on it. I had that put in 7 years ago, that shelter. And it is not a Samusa shelter. It's an MBTA shelter. Samusa doesn't control that one.
Somebody's got to clean it. It's a mess.
Well, can we change that to the MBTA?
Yeah, by all means. Thank you,
Thank you.
Counsel.
On the motion as amended, all in favor? All opposed? So ordered. Calendar item number 20.
That's it.
Mr. Lake Communications?
You're out of business.
Madam President, Can I just have a point of personal privilege?
Yes, you may, Counselor.
Next Monday, the Harlem Wizards will be playing against, next Monday, April 10th. Actually, it's next Tuesday, April 10th. And they'll be playing at the Revere High School, courtesy of a fundraiser hosted by the Lincoln School PTO. And they will be playing against the faculty and the mayor, as well as some of the kids. Thanks.
Thank you, Counselor. Any other counselors? This council is adjourned until April 23rd.